Here are 40 uses of would that advanced English speakers should know. We're going to start with the form, then would for unreality, the uses of would in the past, requests, reasoning, uses of would instead of will, and then special uses. First, form. Would is a modal verb, and that means it's followed by the infinitive. For example, I would go, or I'd go for short. In the continuous form, I would be going. And if we're talking about the past, then we'd introduce have and the past participle. I would have gone, or in the continuous form, I would have been going. In the negative form, would not followed by the verb or wouldn't followed by the verb. We do not use do with the negative or question form of would. And now let's look at unreal situations with would. In a basic sense, we can use would for present unreal situations. Look at the pictures below. Here's someone who is dreaming, and what are they dreaming about? They're dreaming of a swimming pool. They want a swimming pool in their garden. And they think this: if I owned a house with a swimming pool, I would swim in it every day. Sometimes we call this the second conditional form. Here, it's an unreal situation. Does he have a swimming pool? No. Is it likely that he can get a swimming pool? No. He's simply imagining it. So we use would here to show it's his imagination. And it's not for the past, it's his present imagination. But we can also use would for future imagination too. Look at the difference with the next example. If some friends were coming to my house next week, I would invite them to swim with me. So here it's a future imaginary situation. Are the friends coming? No. He's just imagining the future event. But there are also advanced uses of would in unreal situations. Firstly, for past unreal situations. Here, the boy looks sad because he's imagining something from the past. What is it? If I had owned a house with a swimming pool last year, I would have swum in it every day. Here he's imagining last year. And to indicate that it's imagination for the past, we use would followed by have followed by the past participle of swim, which is swum. And we often use this format when we talk about would in the past. Would, have and past participle. But it's not always just for the past. We can also use this in some future situations. Look at this example here. I'm sad that we're not getting a swimming pool. I would have swum in it every day. Let's imagine what's happened here. Perhaps the boy has asked his parents, please get me a swimming pool for my next special occasion, or next year, or sometime soon. And his parents say no. He's feeling sad, and now he's anticipating a future situation that is actually not going to happen. Instead, he's imagining, if things were different, this swimming pool would be here, and this would be my situation. And he uses would, have, past participle to anticipate what the situation could be in the future if things were different. So we can use would, have, followed by past participle for future situations where a situation is not happening in the future, but we're imagining if it was to happen. There are more advanced uses of would for unreality. For instance, giving a reason for not doing something. Here we have a problem with our swimming pool, or maybe it's the sea this time. Look at the waves, look at the sea. It's really strong, really rough. Would you swim in this sea? This person would not. And they say this: I want to go swimming, but I wouldn't be able to swim against the strong currents. That's the present way of saying it. But if it was in the past, we could also use this structure, but now with have and the past participle instead. I wanted to go swimming, but I would have been late for dinner, for instance. So this is wanting to go swimming sometime in the past, and the dinner was also in the past. You're giving your reason for not doing it in the past. So I wanted to go swimming in the past. That was what I wanted to do. And the reason why I could not do it was I would have been late for dinner. So in both the present and the past, we can use would when we're giving a reason for not doing something. Sometimes there are situations where we have willingness, but we cannot fulfill our intentions. Look at the example here. I would go swimming with you, but I haven't bought my swimming costume. In this case, would goes with the clause showing the willingness, not the reason. I would go swimming with you. My willingness is there. Maybe for now, maybe for the future. But the reason this time is the part without would. The reason describes the problem that prevents them from doing what they want to do. And you can learn even more about other modal verbs on my Perfect English Grammar course. A special offer is available if you click the link in the description below this video. I wish you would come swimming with me, the man is saying to the woman. And also, if only you would come swimming, we'd have a great time. So here we have someone's hopes or desires or dreams, and would goes with it because this is what they want to happen, but they're not sure if it's possible for it to happen or not. Let's move on to would for the past. First of all, some basic uses. Would is commonly used for the past when we're talking about past habits, within general activities, that is. Look at the boy in the picture. What's the boy doing? It looks like he's tidying his room. Maybe if you remember being a child, you can remember doing that too. If you're talking about your childhood, you could say this. When I was a child, I would tidy my room at the weekends. It's something you did as a habit. One time, another time, ongoing throughout the past. And it's an activity. And that's important because we do not use would for individual events. So I wouldn't say, I would tidy my room yesterday. No, we use would when it's something that was a habit over a long time. And we generally don't use would with past states. So I would be a tidy child is also incorrect. We would not use would in this type of sentence. Those are the basic uses. Let's look at some advanced uses of would for the past. If you have a repeated past action, you can use would. Look at the man with his dog. What's he doing? He is throwing the ball to his dog. Maybe it took a long time for him to train his dog to get the ball and bring it back to him. So if he was telling the story about this, he might say, when I was a child, I would throw balls for my dog again and again until it learnt to fetch them. We can also use would for past willingness. For instance, he would take his mother's dog for a walk whenever she asked him. So she asked him to do something and he was willing. But it was all in the past, and would indicates that he was willing to do what he was asked. If you criticise someone's habits from the past, then you can use would as well. Perhaps the man is critical of his dog because his dog has a bad habit, or at least had the bad habit in the past, and that was making the bed dirty. How does he describe it? That annoying dog would make the bed dirty. He's annoyed about the dog's behaviour in the past. And it didn't just happen once if we use would in this way. It happened again and again and again. However, it may not just be for the past. It could still be going on. Sometimes people will use would here even if it's still happening. That annoying dog would make the bed dirty. I'm so frustrated with the dog. How about would for requests? The basic uses are these. Firstly, very simply, making polite requests. Here's a man trying to show you to the seat, and he asks you, would you like to sit here? And the response is, I would be delighted to sit here. So would goes with the request, and would goes with the response, the acceptance of the request. And the effect is to make it more polite than using will or other words. Would is very commonly used in English to increase the politeness of what you say. At a more advanced level, would you mind is a phrase often used. We can use it generally in two ways. First of all, would you mind followed by a verb in the ing form. And this is asking for a favour. Maybe a lady is trying to get past this man, but the man is in the way, or perhaps the chair's in the way. So she says to him, would you mind moving your chair so I can get past? Please do this favour for me. Move your chair. This sounds quite polite, but would you mind is not always polite. Look at the problem in this picture. Someone has just trodden on her toe. She's angry about it, and she turns around to that person and says, would you mind? You've trodden on my toe. And here, would you mind, shows annoyance. It's suggesting someone didn't take care. Would you mind? You weren't careful at all. Look at how you've hurt me. The important thing here is would you mind is used as a sentence all on its own. And when it's used like this, it's not a happy sentence. We can also use would for reasoning in many ways. At a basic level, we use would for giving advice. And this makes it more polite or less direct than should. Look at the classroom here. Perhaps people look at the board, they don't know what's going on, they talk to each other. One person asks, what's the answer? And instead of saying you should ask the teacher, making it a little less direct, more polite, the answer is I would ask the teacher. I would ask the teacher. Giving advice. We use would a lot in this way to make advice a little bit more polite, less direct. It's easy to think about the response like this. It's really a short form for saying, if I were you, I would ask the teacher, using that second conditional form. And we often use if I were you to introduce advice with I would followed by the rest of the advice. But we can leave if I were you out completely and simply go straight for I would. If you do that, then the context is usually clear because you're giving advice. So you can say if I were you, or you can leave it out completely and just go for the information. I would do this. I would ask the teacher. Other advanced uses include making results or conclusions more cautious. This happens a lot in scientific writing, academic writing, research writing. But we can also use it in daily life too. Look at what's happened with this cat. The cat has got a problem. Someone asks, what happened? And the response is, it would appear that the cat ran up the tree and got stuck. What's the effect of saying it would appear? What we mean here is we think we're right, but we're not completely certain. It would appear. We can also make opinions more cautious, which really means less than certain again, using would. Look at the photo here. When's the last time you saw someone smoking on a train? I believe most countries have banned smoking on trains, but not all. So if you ask this general question, should smoking be allowed on trains? Someone will probably answer, I wouldn't think so. It's less certain than saying I don't think so. It makes it softer, more cautious, meaning I'm not completely sure of the answer, but this is what I think the answer is. I wouldn't think so. If you are describing the result of an imagined or anticipated situation, then would can also be used. Let's think through the example we can see here. For children to enjoy a train journey, you would have to ban smoking in carriages. So we're trying to think what is necessary here for the children to enjoy the train journey. What's necessary? Well, this thing is necessary. You would have to do this. This is the result that would come from an imagined situation. In this case, it's not true yet. Smoking has not been banned. You would have to is anticipating something necessary to get the result described before. Would is often used with appear or seem when we are using it for reasoning. That would appear to solve the problem. Perhaps if they put the solution into effect that we've just seen before about smoking, if you do that, that would appear to solve the problem. Again, it's being more cautious, less certain about your response. That would appear to solve the problem. I'm not completely sure that it will solve the problem, but I'm fairly certain. I believe it. It's to the best of my ability. This is what I think would happen. It would appear to solve the problem. And very commonly with would, we use feelings that we anticipate in the future. I'd hate to think this rule would upset anyone. We're anticipating the future and saying how we think we'll feel if it happens. I don't think anyone would be upset. That's my expectation, but let's imagine that they are. How would I feel? I would hate that. But we can also use other feeling words as well. I'd love that. I'd like that. And in fact, we use I would like a lot when we make requests and give answers to requests. Would you like an ice cream? Yes, I would like an ice cream. I would love an ice cream. If that were to happen, I would love it. I would like it. Would is often used instead of will in many situations. Let's look at the majority of those situations now. In a basic sense, will is replaced by would when we're reporting speech. Look at the example first. I will keep my promise. This is what someone says, and then maybe tomorrow you need to report this to someone else. How would you say it? Well, you change will to would after the reporting verb. She said she would keep her promise. Not will becomes would in reporting speech. In the same way that words that are present tense often become past tense when we report them. Will becomes would as a past form of will here. But if you are reporting would, you don't change it at all. It stays as would. So if someone says, I would be happy to help, even if that has present meaning, we just stay the same. She said she would be happy to help. You could possibly say she said she would have been happy to help. But we tend not to do that. We tend to just keep in the would form. We can also use would instead of will for past refusals. Maybe this lady is someone who doesn't like taking her pets to the vet to get checked. So what do we say about her? She wouldn't take the cat to the vet. It's a replacement of won't. If we were speaking about now, we would have said, she won't take the cat to the vet. But if we're reporting the past, then wouldn't instead. She wouldn't take the cat to the vet. And this is not just for general situations, but this time it can be used for specific past events. For instance, she wouldn't take the cat to the vet yesterday. We can use would in phrases that include in order that and so that to explain why someone does something. Look at the example. I gave you a lift so that you would be able to get to the vets on time. I gave you a lift is the reason for the next part. The next part gives the explanation. So that you would be able to get to the vets on time. So the bit after so that means you now have the ability. I gave you the ability to get to the vets on time. When we say I gave you a lift, by the way, what we mean is we took you in our car. I took you in my car to this place. I gave you a lift. I took you in the car. But would is used in combination with these phrases when we're explaining why someone does something with the reason and the explanation. The future in the past requires would in many instances. What do we mean by the future in the past? Well, this is for something coming after the present time in a story. Imagine you're telling a story and you're saying she left the vets on Monday. What's the time of the story? Monday. Let's imagine you want to stay in that moment because you're going to say other things afterwards about Monday. But you also want to give in some information at the moment that foretells something coming after this moment. Look at the example. She left the vets on Monday, but she would return on Tuesday because her cat would become ill again. What's the effect here? Well, we're still in Monday at the story, but we're getting like a preview or a glimpse into the future from that point. She would return on Tuesday. However, the story after this would probably continue with Monday because we've not progressed from Monday to Tuesday. Why is that? Because we used would to introduce the next information. The key thing here is to think about the difference between the past simple and would in this situation. If you use the past simple, you progress time in the story. If you use would, you stay at the previous time in the story and look ahead to a future event. Let's imagine the same story but with the past simple. She left the vets on Monday, but she returned on Tuesday because her cat became ill again. By the end of the story, the time is Tuesday, because we used the past simple in the verbs. She returned. Her cat became ill. With would, though, she left the vets on Monday, but she would return on Tuesday because her cat would become ill again. For the rest of Monday, she relaxed at home. So here the time of the story stays Monday throughout because we don't have the past simple to push time forward. Would keeps us in Monday, but looking forward to Tuesday while staying in that position. Let's finish with some special phrases that use would. Firstly, would prefer. What would you like to watch? I would prefer to watch a nature documentary. So would prefer indicates your preference, what you want. Notice it's normally followed with to plus infinitive when it's followed by a verb. It can be followed by a noun. I prefer documentaries, but when it's a verb, to plus infinitive is normal. Compare that with would rather. She'd rather watch the latest movie. It's similar to prefer. It's explaining a preference again, what you want. We usually use rather when we're comparing one thing to another. But here we don't have to. She'd rather watch the latest movie. She'd prefer to watch. She'd rather watch. So to disappears here. Or we can do something else still. He'd rather you told him what the choices are. Here we have would rather in the short form apostrophe D rather, he'd rather. Then you have the object, you, and then the past simple. He'd rather you told him what the choices are. So there's a couple of possible structures that you can use with would rather. A common phrase we use informally with would you believe it? Would you believe it? The internet has gone down and now we can't watch anything. It's an exclamation meaning I am surprised. I did not expect this to happen. Would you believe it? A similar exclamation is as luck would have it. As luck would have it, Joanne was able to get 5G reception on her tablet and we could all watch the movies. As luck would have it also indicates surprise at something very unexpected. There's an indication that you were lucky. There was something where you thought this should have happened, but because of luck, another thing happened. A very common phrase you might hear in restaurants, for example, is this: how would you like it? This means in what way would you prefer something? Perhaps you go to a cafe and someone says, how would you like your coffee? And what they mean is, in what way would you prefer it? Would you like milk? Would you like sugar? Dark, strong, weak? How would you like it? And you could answer simply, with milk but no sugar, please. Would sooner is similar to would rather and would prefer. For example, I would sooner have tea than have coffee with no milk. Would sooner has a stronger sense of comparison. This is my preference and not that one. Often you're offered the thing that you don't want and you say I would sooner to introduce the thing that you do want after having been presented with the thing that you don't want. And would be is a short phrase that isn't a verb at all. It's actually used as a noun. And this simply means hoping to be. He's not a professional actor. He's just a would-be performer from a local school. Would be, not the real thing, hoping to be the real thing.